Good evening, everyone. Anthony Violi from AV Weather Forecasts. It's been a while. I'm still here. I'm still around. Not much has been happening, plus a few other factors over the autumn. But I'm back and ready to start doing some more videos so you guys can see what's going on and keeping all my lovely fans updated. We'll start with sea surface temperatures. I love showing everyone the sea surface temperatures. Now, what we have here is a developing weak La Nina at the moment. You can see the cold water here in the equator, indicating that La Nina is starting to develop. As we know, last year we had a neutral. We didn't have a La Nina or El Nino. We had 2-year La Nina 2010-11, and we had a neutral year last year, which was basically exactly as we forecast. However, I think this year will definitely go into La Nina conditions. However, it's just a matter of the strength at the moment. But you can see here the trades are starting to strengthen, so the cold water is coming up from the coast here, and we should start to see this spread all the way along till about 170 west, where you should start to see a separation. This whole area here will be cold around there, down to here, and then all the warm water will be stacked up here. The one thing that I do want to bring to your attention is this very cold water here in the Bering Sea, which will feed down through the Pacific equatorial current, and that will come down through the Pineapple Express here near Hawaii. Cools this area rapidly. In the next 4 weeks we'll start to see all this area here. We just need to keep an eye on this, but the next 4 weeks we should see some really cold water developing here, which means it'll be coming from up here, feeding into this region here, and then it gets fed back underneath and kills any warming that's there, and with any luck should bring up some nice cold water over here in the next coming months, and we should start to see a decent La Nina developing. As I said, we're not sure of the strength yet, but it's my guess we're going to have at least a weak to moderate La Nina. I wouldn't rule out a strong one yet. We're starting to see some indicators now in the last couple of weeks that are starting to indicate that we could possibly get a moderate to strong one, but I need to see the response from the trade winds. The trade winds are what brings all the cold water up from the coast here, because in the subsurface here there's a lot of cold water, but it doesn't come up unless you've got very strong southeasterly trade winds. So that's what I'm looking to see in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and I'm also looking to see this cold water come down to here and be placed around here somewhere. So I'll keep you posted on it, and I'll do another video in the next couple of weeks and let you know. But it is my belief in the coming weeks and months that this will all cool down in this region here. There'll be no warmth left in here. It should be all cool, and we should have a decent La Nina on our hands. The other thing to note also is the warm water here off the northwest coast of Australia. Now, we have a negative Indian Ocean dipole developing, which is very good for Australia in terms of rainfall, because this warm water sits off the coast here and we get lots of cloud bands, as you would have noticed with the record rainfall over Melbourne in the last couple of weeks. It's all because of all the moisture feeding in from Indonesia and down through here, and it just feeds across the country, gets picked up by fronts as they come up from the south and dumps a heap of rain. Now, we had a lot of this in the last 2 to 3 years. Obviously last year we didn't have much because it was a dry spell, and I'm always talking about responses. The dry spell we had last year was a response to the record rainfall from the 2-year La Nina that we just had. So we had to have a response. Now, it went a lot longer than I thought it would. That granted, I thought we'd definitely see an autumn break, and we didn't. But it just came a little bit late. Everything seemed to be running 6 to 8 weeks behind last year and the start of this year. But now she's starting to, the weather's just starting to line up as it normally would. And this is a time of year that, remembering, of course, that an El Nino or a La Nina peaks at Christmas time. And at this time of year, which is almost the winter equinox, it's basically the time when the climate just decides which way it wants to go. And there we go, just updated for you, which is even better. This is about the time that it wants to decide which way it wants to go, and it's definitely starting to tend La Nina. Now, one of the decent indicators of a La Nina is the GLAM, or the Global Angular Momentum, and it's dipped heavily negative, as you can see here by the purple. Very heavily negative and very indicative of a La Nina on the card. So everything in the last couple of weeks is definitely pointing towards a developing La Nina. The other thing I want to show you as far as sea surface temperatures go is this is the average depth of the 300 meters, the top 300 meter layer of the sea surface temperatures. And obviously there's a lot of cold here, which is what we want for a La Nina. But have a look at this heat here. There's a lot of heat in the subsurface just north of Australia. And what happens is there's a what's called the Indonesian flow through, and this water goes through the subsurface and goes through Indonesia here and comes out just off our northwest coast here. Now this is extremely warm water. We're talking 2 to 4 degrees above normal. Now in the next probably 2 to 3 months, we're probably going to start to see that feed down this Leeuwin current down here right along the side of Australia here. So we could quite conceivably have 2 to 4 degree warming above normal temperatures in the sea surface just off our coast, right down as far as south as Perth, which is where the Leeuwin current goes to. So that's a very ominous sign for an extremely wet 6 months. Now my forecast is for a very wet winter and spring due to the negative ID. That's what we call a negative Indian Ocean dipole, when the warm water sits here off our coast. If you go back to the sea surface temperature, notice that you can't really see it at the surface at the moment. That's a very key point. It's not on the surface at the moment. The temperature is only about 1 to 2 degrees above normal, but it's in the subsurface. Now that's going to develop just at the right time, and you want it at about the springtime, late August or something like that. We should start to see this area really warm up here. Obviously this is cold here because we've had cloud bands and a lot of rain over the last couple of weeks, but that's nothing to worry about. That'll warm up. So that's really interesting that all this warm water here is stacking up against the coast here off our northwest coast, which is very good for rainfall. And just quickly, all this warm water here in a normal situation is probably the catalyst for an El Nino. If you have the reversing of the trade winds, all this warm water, if we had westerly winds here, would be pushed all the way across to near Mexico and then be fed back out with an El Nino. So we could conceivably have had an El Nino if conditions were right. But of course, as I've said to you, if you followed my forums and on my website, in a cold PDO, that is a cold Pacific Decadal Oscillation period, which is what we're going through for the next 20 years, La Ninas dominate, which means any heat that's stored in the subsurface usually only gets released once every 4 to 7 years. So I think we've had our go, which was last year, which was basically a neutral, but a little bit of warmth got released. But that is a lot of warm water. So if it's not going to end up over here, I think it's going to end up over here, which is excellent for us. And yeah, so like I said, we should just keep an eye on that and we'll see what happens. But I'm thinking in the next 3 months there's going to be a lot of warm water stacked up off the coast here, and we should get a lot of rainfall from it. So I'll keep you updated on that. Other things to show you. Let's see, we'll go with the response I've been talking about coming now. I've been talking about it coming since February, and it never came during the summer months. We had dominating upper ridges, almost El Nino-like conditions actually. We didn't actually classify an El Nino, however the weather behaved like one because we had non-stop upper ridges over the country here, just blocking any chance of tropical rainfall from getting down to us, which was most unlike the previous few years in La Nina. But you can see in May things started to turn. We started to have big percentage rainfall coming in from the northwest. So things are definitely on the move, and already in June, you can see here in June already we've only gone 7 days and we've already had a lot of rainfall here. Now this is the breeding ground for all our rain down here. That rainfall event that we saw last week, that record rainfall we had here, that all came from the tropics last week, so which has been sitting there for 3 weeks now. So all that warm water I'm talking about, if that's going to stack up around here, we're just going to continually get rainfall and cloud bands coming down through this region here and hooking up with any fronts that come up from the southwest. So that's a very good sign. And if you look at the GFS over the next 2 weeks, you can quite clearly see there's definitely a shift going on in the climate. I mean, it's supposed to be the dry season in the top end, and look at what sort of rainfall we've got coming to the top end here. We've got 3 to 4, 5, 6 inches of rain, which is just madness when you're talking about the middle of June, 15th to the 23rd of June. So you're talking about some significant record-breaking sort of rain for that time of year. So something's definitely up, and I'm thinking that it's a La Nina developing in conjunction with the negative IOD. Now I'm just going to finish on temperatures. We'll look at global temperatures in a minute, but this is just this week. This temperature, global temperature, which is the anomaly for the week, is continually falling. It's been falling all year. At the start of the year, most weeks were around about 0.07, 0.06, but it's just gradually, continually falling. And you can see, look at this cold down in Antarctica. I mean, it's just freezing cold, which is why the ice sheet is 1 million kilometres above average. It's at a record at the moment. But you can see the cold really starting to get organised now. We're starting to see cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot. Now what that means is it's starting to organise itself. The La Nina here, you can see this cold developing now. It's starting to get organised, which we should see uniform hot, cold, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. The last 12 months we haven't seen that. It's been a dog's breakfast. It's been everywhere, all mixed, hot and cold, all over the place. The sea surface temperatures were all over the place. But now she's starting to move and start to get organised. And as I said, this is the time of year that it should be doing it, and it's doing it. So what I want to see in the next 6 weeks is some more cooling here, some more heating here, and a lot of cooling in this basin here. And that should ensure that we get a La Nina coming on. Anyway, that's it for this time. I'll keep you posted on the weather both globally and locally, and I'll be doing a lot more videos now, and the weather is getting a lot more exciting. And of course, if you've got any requests and you follow me on my forum and on my website, feel free to drop me a line, and I'll do some more videos. And until next time, I'll see you then.